Hi, welcome to the new section of the course, Remote Access. In this section we will cover topics such as installing OpenSSH, using OpenSSH as a basic shell client, using OpenSSH to forward defined ports, using OpenSSH as a SOCKS proxy, using OpenVPN. So let's begin with the first video titled Installing OpenSSH. In this video, you'll first install SSH-server in Debian or Ubuntu, and then install Fedora, CentOS, and other RedHat derivatives. Through sudo yum, install OpenSSH-server. Our first option for remote access is the simplest, assuming that you just need to be able to remotely access a shell on your Linux system. All Linux distributions offer the ability to install a secure shell SSH server. The most common SSH server available is OpenSSH, which is distributed by the OpenBSD team. A lighter weight option called Dropbear is also available and is often found in embedded Linux platforms such as OpenWRT. Nice, we saw a brief introduction, now we will see how to do it. Installing OpenSSH on a Linux system is very easy, but the specifics on how to do it will depend on the Linux distribution that you are using. Let's install SSH server in Debian or Ubuntu with the commands here. For Fedora, CentOS and other RedHat derivatives, it would be sudo yum install OpenSSH-server. Now, once OpenSSH is installed, anyone with network access to TCP port 22 on your system may attempt to log into your system. If this machine is your firewall, or if you forward port 22 from your firewall to this box, it could potentially mean anyone on the internet. In fact, if this is the case, you can expect to see the attempt to log into your system using common usernames and passwords within hours of installing the package. There are a few common steps that you should take in order to avoid being the next victim to have their system attempting to brute force the world. The steps are: use strong passwords. When you first installed your Linux distribution, did you use a trivial password like password, or any other dictionary words? Or worse, have no password at all? If this is the case, then you can expect to be exploited quickly. This also applies to system accounts that you may have created for a manually installed software package or web service. Restrict who can log in sshd_config, which is in the etc or etc ssh. The default is to allow logins for all users. On a minimum, you can disable root logins by setting permit root login number. For more control, you can choose to supply a comma-separated list of usernames to allow users in order to limit logins to just those users. You may choose to additionally move SSH to a non-standard port using the port definition in sshd_config. This option will not provide any protection against a determined attacker, but will at least limit noise from SSH brute force attacks, since they're typically performed with a script limited to the default SSH port of 22. Another method to deal with bots is with using a tool that monitors failed logins and uses firewall rules to block access for repeat offenders. This will limit the scope of their attack attempts to a configurable number of login attempts. A few tools that implement this method are fail to ban and deny hosts. Finally, for a very high value system, you can consider using SSH keys rather than passwords for logins. This allows you to replace fairly weak passwords, passphrases, with SSH public keys using RSA, DSA, and ECDSA cryptography, which are not feasible to attack. Note that this would need to be used in conjunction with disabling password authentication in sshd_config, or it will not provide any additional security. Now let's see how it works. Once installed, OpenSSH listens on TCP port 22 and allow authenticated SSH clients to connect and perform a number of actions, including the following: obtain a shell, the most common usage, forwarding defined TCP ports from the client to the server or vice versa, including ports on remote systems, dynamically forwarding TCP ports by acting as a SOCKS proxy for for any application that supports SOCKS 4 or SOCKS 5, forwarding X11 applications from the remote system to display on your local system. Copying files using SCP Secure Copy or SFTP Secure File Transfer Program. Note that SFTP is different than FTPS, which is the much older FTP protocol operating over SSL, acting as a Layer 2 or Layer 3 VPN. The server provides a public cryptographic key upon login, which can be used to validate that the server is what you expect it to be. While there is no public CA infrastructure like you'd have with the TLS in order to validate the authenticity of the server, you can either choose to trust the server certificate on first login and inspect for changes to the key, or you may share the public key via an external secure channel prior to your login. For login authentication purposes, the SSHD daemon either requires read access to etc password and etc shadow, or more commonly ties into your system's PAM, Pluggable Authentication Modules system, which provides a layer of abstraction between services and the actual authentication system under the covers. As mentioned in the preceding section, you may also choose to use SSH keys, which leverage PAM for user account information, but will require the user to have a private key that matches a public key specified in .ssh. Authorized keys. You can read more about the use of public key cryptography with SSH by running man ssh-keygen. Great! In this video we saw how to install OpenSSH.